Second of 6 preseason games for the hometown Vancouver Canucks. It's the first of what will be 7 meetings between the Canucks and the Oilers. 2 in the preseason, including one Saturday in Edmonton, and then 5 in the regular year. Starting goalies brought to you by Tim Hortons, Canada's favorite coffee. There weren't many who thought they'd see Roberto Luongo back in a Vancouver uniform again, but the Canucks all-time leader in just about everything has his #1 job back. You can expect a heavy workload from John Tortorella. There was some talk Edmonton was in the thick of the Corey Schneider trade talk, but Devan Dubnyk remains the Oilers starter, and he plays in his 2nd preseason game tonight. Canucks fans get their first look at Brad Richardson, the offseason signing, ex of the LA Kings and the Colorado Avalanche. And the Oilers, their first-round pick from June, Darnell Nurse, on defense to start this game, alongside Nick Schultz, the veteran. Van Eager out on the ice. The Oilers lose the puck early. Brad Richardson moving in, couldn't get a good shot away. Now a shot from the line, deflected. Bieksa let it go, and it hit the outside of the net. Oilers have a 2-on-1. Eager moving in with Mike Brown, and over to break it up was Jason Garrison, and he's able to clear the puck ahead and out to center. Garrison, Bieksa on defense. Richardson still up front, but he heads to the bench now as the Sedin line starts to make its way onto the ice. Daniel and Henrik Sedin along with Zach Kassian. A unit the Canucks hope will be able to open the season as a forward line for the Canucks. Kassian dumps the puck into the Oilers zone. There's the off-season signing for Edmonton. Andrew Ference back to help break it up, and the Oilers get the puck out. Chris Tanev passes across to John Negrin. His pass to Daniel Sedin goes the length of the ice, and they'll blow it down for icing, with Brad Ference clearly the winner of that race.
A 2-on-1 created when Kevin Bieksa stands up and look at Jason Garrison read it, that Ben Eager was having problems with the puck, and a good, confident, quick turn, good feet to get over and break up that 2-on-1.
Taylor Hall wins a face-off from Henrik Sedin. Tries to pass the blue line. That's intercepted by Daniel Sedin, who carries to center on the left wing. Daniel, pass it in the middle. And a shot from there by Tanev is blocked. Ference got in the way of it. Oilers send the puck down. No icing as Negrin goes down. Hemsky in pursuit. Puck loose at the side of the goal. Mike Santorelli. Canuck hopeful. Makes the pass ahead. Daniel Sedin on the right wing. Nice move to get around Ference. Centering pass was deflected behind the goal. Hall picks up the puck and finds Ryan Smith, who gets to center, dumps it in, and starts the line change for both teams. Patrick Mullen ahead to Santorelli. Originally from Burnaby, Mike Santorelli now lives in the city of Vancouver. Chance to play for his hometown team, vying for a center ice spot. Puck brought out by Tyler Pitlick, actually didn't get out of his own zone, and a shot by Brandon DeFazio hits the side of the Edmonton net. DeFazio keeps after the puck, but Jesse Joensuu picks it up for the Oilers. The former New York Islander passes to Pitlick. He headmans the puck, but it's picked off the Vancouver blue line. And Garrison hooks the puck around to the other side for Mullen. Patrick Mullen to Jason Garrison, ahead to Brendan Gaunt, who heads to the bench after tipping the puck into the Oilers zone. Onto the ice is Bo Horvat along with Yannick Hansen and Hunter Shinkarik. They're after the puck of the Oiler blue line. But it's ducked in by Brad Hunt. The Maple Ridge native heads to the Oiler bench after making that play. Mike Brown, former Canuck, battling for the puck behind the Vancouver goal. Kevin Bieksa takes him out of the play, but he's getting an interference penalty for that, as the puck had already gotten by them. And Bieksa, the first penalty of the hockey game, 2:48 in.
Vancouver, number 3, Larry Valley for interference.
And no complaints from Kevin Bieksa. The puck goes by, and he just takes his man out. Referee right on it, making the call. Referee Francis Sharon right about 5 feet away from that interference penalty.
Ference gets the puck in the blue line, and he leaves for Taylor Hall, who attacks off the right side. Rink-wide pass. Justin Schultz back to Andrew Ference. Here's Hall again. Throws one on goal, deflected, stopped by Luongo. Puck loose at the side after Ryan Smith got the tip, but they couldn't get it into the goal, and Garrison has room to shoot the puck down the ice.
2 good saves by Roberto Luongo early in this game. Get a feel for the puck. This power play.
Ference starts out for Edmonton. Up to Hemsky. His pass easily picked off, and Mullen sends the puck back down into Oiler territory. Dubnyk out of his net. Little miscommunication with Ference, but they're able to solve that, and here comes Hall through center. Taylor Hall in on the right wing. Wide on Peter Anderson, who takes him down. Puck loose at the side. Mullen comes up with it, but can't clear. Here's Marincin to David Perron. Perron with a wrist shot, and that was blocked by Anderson. Perron gets the puck once more. Leaves for Hall on the right side. Taylor Hall across. Hemsky with a shot off the arm of Luongo. Schultz is in deep. Can't come up with the puck. Mullen has it for Vancouver, and he'll take his time before shooting at the length of the ice. 35 seconds to go in the penalty to Kevin Bieksa. No score, just past the 4-minute mark first period. Jordan Eberle dances in. Pass to Boyd Gordon, now in the high slot. Oilers set it up. David Perron with the puck. To the left point, Marincin. Down to Eberle, back to Martin Marincin. Here's Perron with a wrist shot. Hit the Canuck Negrin, and then the right pad of Roberto Luongo. 10 seconds to go on the Vancouver penalty. Marincin dishes off. Eberle to the side of the net. Gordon trying to center on the backhand. Luongo blocked that. Now wrap around to 10, and it just snuck in. Jordan Eberle on the backhand. The red light went on. Now they blow the whistle. It appeared to be over the goal line, and on the power play, or just as the penalty expires, the Oilers take a 1-0 lead.
Well, the referee is blocked out by Roberto Luongo's body, and this wraparound is off Roberto's leg. I agree with you, John. I think it just snuck over the line. Wrap around, and Roberto can't get his leg free. Hits his pad, slides, and just barely makes it over. Off the inside of his leg. Roberto Luongo just can't free himself up. He's caught. He's got a stick, skate. Chris Tanev. And it's off the inside of the pad of Roberto Luongo. It just squeaks across.
So we talked about wraparounds last game. Would they be easier with the
that's
net
it,
not
yes.
being as deep? And
That's
there
it,
you go.
the shallow net, and you don't have to go as far.
It's not a power play goal. It came 1 second after the Bieksa penalty had expired. Jordan Eberle with his first of the preseason, and Edmonton has a 1-0 lead. Bieksa back on the ice with Jason Garrison as the Canucks break the center. Henrik Sedin can't get around his man, and the puck is dumped back into the Vancouver zone by Arcabello. Daniel Sedin. That bounced off Garrison. Arcabello moves in quickly. He's got Joensuu in front. Arcabello with a wrist shot off the right shoulder of Roberto Luongo. Oilers hold the puck in. Long shot by Nurse. Deflects to the side. Here's Joensuu trying to create a chance. Couldn't get the puck to the front, but he's got it still. Back to Nurse. Right point. Justin Schultz fakes the shot. Now wrist one on goal. Luongo juggled it. Couldn't squeeze it. Daniel Sedin pulled down. Can't get the puck out. Here's Pitlick. Tyler Pitlick turning on the left wing. Checked by Garrison. Canucks still can't get the puck out. Oilers doing a good job of hemming them in.
Shots are 7-0 at this point.
Picking up from the last game when the Canucks were badly outshot over the last 40 minutes versus San Jose. Darnell Nurse moves in. Good power move. Couldn't slide it in the side, and back to pick up the puck is Brad Richardson. Ahead to Colin Stewart, who gets to center on the left wing over the Oiler line. Stewart with a wrist shot, hit the post. Dubnyk missed it with the glove, and it hit the goal post. And now the puck goes out of play for a whistle. Close call for the Canucks. After Jordan Eberle opened the scoring, just after a power play had expired, it's 1-0 Edmonton.
Roberto Luongo's been busy early in this game. The Oilers' power play had complete control for the 2 minutes. Jordan Eberle slides it, and it's off the inside of Roberto's right leg and just squeaks across. John, you can see the net shallower, and that's why Eberle didn't have to bring it as far out on his backhand and was able to direct it towards the net. The round part, the curve, the 40 inches deep instead of 44 inches, and that makes it narrower at the back. Obviously, the opening's the same size, although they did talk about making it bigger.
Taylor Hall is in. Glove saved by Luongo. Red Sea parted on that one, but Roberto Luongo bailed at his teammates.
But Taylor Hall in full stride. This talented Oiler team up front. This long, hard pass to Taylor Hall. He's got glue on the tape. Snaps it can't quite get it over Roberto Luongo, who plays him very well. And Taylor Hall trying to go high glove side.
Brendan Gaunce, who had a goal in the 3-2 loss to San Jose, plays the puck into the Edmonton zone, now chips it behind the net, taken there by Ales Hemsky, who passes ahead to Taylor Hall. Hall, poke checked by Mike Santorelli, but Ryan Smith plays the puck in behind the Canuck goal. Luongo sweeps it along, and here comes Negri. Ahead to Gaunce, into the middle, Tanev over the Oiler line, pass in the middle, picked off, and the Oilers could have another odd man rush. Hall in on the left wing, Everly going to the net. Hall centers off the skate of Everly, who is being hounded by Gaunce on the back check. Now a shot from the line, deflects in.
I think Taylor Hall might have got a piece of that one.
The shot was taken from well out by Marincin, who already has an assist. It's either his goal or off another stick, and it's a 2-0 lead.
Canucks in real trouble here. The pass across to Marincin, and he just snaps it towards the net. Taylor Hall is cruising through. John Nagrin is with him. And it goes off, I think it goes off Taylor Hall and back over the right shoulder of Roberto Luongo.
So the Oilers with a couple of early goals. They've outshot the Canucks 9-0. And have the home team on the ropes early. Now Bieksa with a long shot. Kassian after the rebound, jamming away. Dubnyk's got the puck. Best chance aside from the goal post earlier for the Canucks, and Dubnyk has the puck for the whistle.
Similar to the Oiler goal, where the long wrist shot tipped in front. Devan Dubnyk makes the save and is able to get the big body in front of it and hang on.
Canucks credited with 2 shots in that sequence. So they have a couple of official shots on Dubnyk. They're giving Marincin the goal. And another one! Perron from a bad angle, and Roberto Luongo off to a tough start. 3-0 Edmonton, and the last 2 came from tough angles.
This one, Roberto Luongo is looking up at the Jumbotron. Does it hit Jason Garrison's stick? Just sneaks through. Roberto wasn't expecting Perron to shoot it from there. Jason Garrison reaches over, and it just sneaks by him. I don't think it hit Garrison's stick. I think it's just straight
ready
in.
for it. Looked like. So Canucks call a timeout here. John Tortorella is watching this game again from up high.
Glenn Gulletson is the assistant coach running this meeting. Everybody knows that it's exhibition and not a whole lot involved, but you don't want to be embarrassed in your own building, and it's 3-0 at the 10-minute mark.
Oilers with 3 goals on 10 shots. And Mike Sullivan is getting his 2 cents in as well. The second goal, Marincin from Hunt and Everly at 7:07. And at 7:38, just 31 seconds later, David Perron has made it 3-0 for the visiting Edmonton Oilers. So we'll see what the timeout might bring, as the Canucks look for any type of forward momentum in this one, which has been all Oilers early. Here's a chance for Jensen to shoot from the high slot. That went off Nurse and into the corner. Richardson battling for the puck. Nicholas Jensen in there as well. Stewart to the line. Anderson to the other side. Mullen tried to get a shot, couldn't get it through. And the puck is brought to center by Johansson. Jordan Everly with a goal and 2 assists already in this game. Chance for Johansson. Now Hunt with a shot, and that bounced wide of the goal. Everly opened the scoring, and he's picked up helpers on both the Marincin and Perron tallies. Anderson passes in his own zone to Mullen, who hooks the puck around. Canucks were cutting to the middle, and Hunt's able to intercept. Goes round behind the net, puts the puck in front of the backhand, cleared away by Anderson. And Nicholas Jensen winds up with the puck for Vancouver, passing to Peter Anderson. Up the right side. And in line is Hunter Shinkaruk. Couldn't get the shot through. Jannik Hansen gets to the puck. Plays it in behind the goal. Justin Schultz check there. Bo Horvat after the puck. Oilers get it to the line, held in by Negrin. And his shot attempt bounces off an Oiler and out to center. Puck driven back in by Chris Tanev. Shinkaruk crashing in after the puck. Marincin passes it around. Here's Tanev. Wristing one towards the goal, gloved by Dubnyk. And he's able to hang on with Shinkaruk there, hoping for a rebound.
Devan Dubnyk plays that one very easily on the long wrist shot. Traffic didn't get there until the shot came through. Hunter Shinkaruk looking for a rebound and none happening in front of Devan Dubnyk.
Brendan Gaunce out for the face-off against Taylor Hall. Puck comes to Garrison. He tried to slide it over to Bieksa. That was blocked. Ferentz back for the puck. Santorelli pursuing him. Justin Schultz from West Bank picks up the puck around for Ferentz, who drops off for Hall. Rink wide to Hemsky. Checked by Bieksa. Kevin Bieksa down the boards. DeFazio feeds into the corner. Oilers break that up, and Hemsky makes a nice play to Ferentz. Ahead to Ryan Smith. Tried to find Hall on the left wing. That's broken up by Garrison, who headmans the puck to Gaunce. Brendan Gaunce at the end of his shift chips the puck in and heads to the Vancouver bench. Just past the halfway mark, first period, 3-0 Oilers. Here's Nick Schultz. Hard around to the far side. Perron reverse the puck for Edmonton. Canucks take it away. Throw it up the middle, and here's Cassian. Pass for Henrik Sedin. Tracks down the puck on the right side. Leaves at the right point. Thrown on goal by Mullen. And hanging on is Dubnyk as Daniel Sedin did a flyby looking for a tip. Dubnyk has the puck, and the Oilers have the lead. A healthy one, 3-0.
For the first time in over a decade, the Canucks will host every team in the NHL here on home ice. Tickets available for the home opener Saturday, October 5th versus these Oilers, as well as Tuesday, October 8th versus Jersey, and Thursday the 10th versus new division rivals San Jose. Visit Canucks.com/tickets for availability.
Canucks down 3-0 early in this one. Just over 9 minutes to go in the first period. Mentioned these teams will play again Saturday in Edmonton, another preseason contest. Jason Garrison with the puck. Passes to Kevin Bieksa. Returns the feed up to Daniel Sedin, who plays a cross-corner dump. Henrik after it there. Nick Schultz chops the puck forward. Bieksa holds it in. Kevin Bieksa. Behind the net to Daniel Sedin. Puck loose to the side. Cassian after. Bieksa still in deep. Hooks the puck to the side. Daniel through the crease. Cassian couldn't get a shot away. Here's Garrison with a blast, and that was blocked by Gordon. Daniel Sedin didn't shoot it. Pass back to Bieksa. Long shot off Dubnyk. Gordon picks up the loose puck and plays it down the ice into the Vancouver zone. This will be icing. And the face-off will come back into the Edmonton zone after the Canucks' best sustained offensive zone play of the contest.
Well, you look at the Edmonton Oilers, and their lack of success has led to this, where you get 3 first overall picks, and the only team in NHL history to have the 3 overall picks without making a trade to get those picks. Of course, there's a lottery, but the Oilers have been in a position where they've been a lottery candidate year after year, and now it's paying off.
Dallas Eakins calls timeout after the icing, so he's all business here, spending his timeout early to give his skaters a rest, not wanting to give the Canucks anything to build on in this hockey game. The hot coaching commodity of the off-season. Interviewed numerous spots, and then the Oilers surprised everybody when they went in thinking they were going to interview him as an associate coach candidate for Ralph Kruger, and decided he was the man they wanted to take on the head job.
Dallas and I used to work at Roger Nielsen's hockey schools together way back when. Trinity Hockey School in Port Hope, Ontario. Good guy. I know Dallas very well, very intense, and a good
fit, I think, for this young team.
After the timeout, the Oilers win the faceoff. Fail to clear the puck, however. Everly has another opportunity, being watched by Colin Stewart. Darnell Nurse behind the net. Puck comes back to him, and he's able to skate it to the side, play it off the boards and out. So the faceoff will stay in the Oilers zone, but Edmonton is free to make a line change.
Darnell Nurse is an interesting candidate. He's so tall, 6'4", but he only he just turned 18 in February, so he's 185 pounds. You know he's going to be, when he fills out, 220, and yet he has that kind of skill.
You mean when he fills out the right way, not when he fills out the middle-aged way?
Yes.
Here's Yoan Su with a centering pass.
The John and John diet, is
Yes,
that what you're
exactly.
saying?
We wouldn't fit in with the Dallas Aikens program. There's a Vancouver penalty coming up after Luongo to lunge and make that save, and the Oilers score. Right afterwards, Yoan Su with Dubnyk just heading to the bench, and Edmonton makes it 4-0.
Mike Gillis looking on. Not happy with the turn of events here. Brad Hunt, a nice pass to start the play, and then the quick shot goes through everybody and through Roberto Luongo before he can get a stick down.
Another assist for Hunt from Maple Ridge. He's got a couple of helpers in this hockey game, which is still only 12.5 minutes old. And the Oilers go offside.
Now, here's a question for you. You hook a goalie in an exhibition game. I mean, it doesn't matter, and Roberto's been around long enough that it's...
This is the perfect game to bring it up, because it was the last game of the regular season that the Oilers exploded for those 5 goals, and there was so much kerfuffle about Alain Vigneault not hooking Roberto Luongo, and the Oilers just picking up right where they left off from last April. But I don't know what the answer is to your question.
And one of the... If it stays the same or even gets a little worse by the end of the first period, you're only going to play part of the game anyway.
I think I'd be better served to ask you that question, because you've been in the position.
I'd get him out of there, is what I would do.
Here's a turnover and a chance at the side. Rebound attempt, another one in. Brendan Gaunce has his second of the preseason. Gaunce followed the bouncing puck, and he gets Vancouver on the board.
And you see where all 3 Canuck forwards are on this goal, and I think that's one of the things that John Tortorella sitting upstairs will like, is that not only does the forecheck work, Gaunce is in there, physical part of it, but you throw it to the net and then go to the net, and all 3 forwards are right there. It's not just the pass out in front, but you bring it to the net. Santorelli's there, Gaunce is there, and they finally get a rebound and bank it by. DeFazio was in on it, took the original shot.
You're going to have to do your goalie math for me and tell me what these guys are thinking the final score is going to be. I'll let you extrapolate.
Yeah, no.
Here's a chance in front off the rebound. But the puck is played to the side. Ferentz checked by Daniel Sedin. Tried to find Cassian behind the net. Oilers pick up the puck, and here they come 3-on-2. Taylor Hall into the right wing. Hall centers. Luongo lunging with the save. Schultz on the rebound. Put it wide on the backhand. Original chance for Ryan Smith, I believe. And the Oilers almost had their 5th goal right there. Santorelli and DeFazio, the assists on the Brendan Gaunce goal that made it 4-1. Here's Daniel Sedin. Drop pass. Henrik shoots. Stopped by Dubnyk. Can't cover. A quick whistle, though. As Negrin was after the puck, the whistle blows. Canucks are on the board. Oilers have 4, and they almost had a 5th a moment ago. Ryan Smith that close to making it 5-1.
Brakeman and John Lynch.
Ryan Smith had that opportunity a moment ago. His team up 4-1. Canucks after the puck. in the Oilers zone. David Perron comes up with it ahead to Jordan Eberle. Puck rolled off his stick, and Tanev drops it off to Daniel Sedin. His pass deflects off Negrin. Oilers take possession of the puck, play it back. Nick Schultz has to chase after it. Leaves for Darnell Nurse. Turns to get away from Henrik Sedin, but runs into Daniel Nurse with a long reach, able to poke the puck through. Oilers move to center. Eberle turns back and finds Perron. David Perron, ill-advised drop pass. Richardson fell down, but he's able to make the pass to Stewart. Stewart dumps the puck in behind the goal. Jensen after it for Vancouver. Perron back to check him. 4-5-man battle for the puck behind the net. Oilers come up with it. Perron to Eberle. And he plays the puck off the boards and out. Just under 5 minutes left first period. Here's Brad Richardson. In on the left wing. Steps around Hunt. Tips the puck to the end boards. Joensuu there leaves for Marincin. Gives the puck away to Richardson. Back to the right point. Here's Bieksa with a blast, and that one missed the net. Garrison over to hold the puck in. Down for Richardson. Richardson trying to get the puck to the blue line. That didn't work. Garrison from center drives it back in, and the Canucks make a full change. Tyler Pitlick deflects the puck forward. Mullen back to collect it for Vancouver. Ahead to Hunter Shinkaruk. He gets to the Oiler blue line and dumps the puck in behind the goal. Dubnyk reverses to Justin Schultz, and he plays ahead to Pitlick. To an open wing at center, here's Taylor Hall. Gets around Mullen. Following up on the play is Ryan Smith, but he couldn't handle the puck. Hansen clears for Vancouver. But the Oilers send it right back ahead, and here's Hemsky dancing in. Fake the drop pass, kick the puck back up, now goes round behind the net. Hemsky to Hall. Into the corner, here's Ryan Smith. Smith behind the net for Hemsky. Working on Horvat. Ales Hemsky banks the puck to the blue line. Ference with a blast, and that was blocked by Hansen. Justin Schultz holds the puck in. Hall spinning to get away from Negrin. Taylor Hall looking in front. Sends the puck to the blue line. Here's Ference. Another shot missed the net. Hall behind the goal as the Oilers look for more. Taylor Hall. Here's Schultz. Justin Schultz blocked. And Shinkaruk, who made the shot block, skates forward, hoping to get a pass from Hansen. There it is. Shinkaruk missed the net. Tried to feather it in glove side and put it off the target. And it stays 4-1 Oilers. 3 minutes to go in the first. Garrison hit by Ben Eager at center. Puck comes to Chris Tanev. Ahead for Brandon DeFazio. Chips the puck in behind the Oiler goal. Santorelli there, checked by Nick Schultz. And Mike Brown starts out with the puck for Edmonton. His pass deflects through to Luongo. Tanev can't get the puck by Will Acton. Tanev another chance. This time finds Garrison. And now Gong's pass ahead to DeFazio, who plays the puck in deep. Perron tips it free for Will Acton. Acton, the son of Keith Acton, who is one of the coaches behind the Oiler bench. Here's Boyd Gordon. Trying to get the puck out. Kevin Bieksa gloved it down. Loose at center, picked up by Santorelli. But Gordon retakes control for Edmonton and drops the puck back for Hunt. 2 minutes to go in the first period. Edmonton leading 4-1. Hunt skates the puck to center and chips it into the corner to the left of Luongo. Negrin went down hard as Gordon appeared to upend him. John Negrin slow to get up, can't play the puck as it slides past him. Canucks playing short-handed here with Negrin struggling to get to his feet, and now they'll get a whistle as the puck went into the netting and back onto the ice. And John Negrin will slowly and gingerly make his way to the Vancouver bench.
Well, here's John Negrin, and you can see he didn't get knocked down. It caught the inside edge of his right skate. His right skate catches, and his heel goes down, and his head is into the boards first. Hunter Shinkaruk blocks the shot, now goes to the net. Beautiful pass by Jannik Hansen. Shinkaruk wants it, gets it, and just misses the far post. Had the goaltender coming across. All the right idea, just missed.
Canucks control off the face-off in their own end. Bieksa banks one ahead for Stewart, who deflects the puck through to goaltender Dubnyk. Jensen fell down. Oilers break out. Richardson intercepts, finds Garrison. Ahead to Stewart and back to Kevin Bieksa. Richardson in the neutral zone. Puck squirts back to Garrison, who takes a return pass from Stewart. Jannik Hansen onto the ice. Bieksa takes his pass as we move into the final minute of the first period. Shinkarikin. Horvat wasn't expecting the pass, had to reach for it. Pitlick breaks up that play. Gets the puck out to center. Hansen takes control at his own blue line. Gets in over the Oiler line. Tips the puck to the end boards. Hunt took a spill, but he's back up with the puck. Brad Hunt to Joensuu and across to Justin Schultz. Pitlick from center. Brings the puck into the Vancouver zone. Comes all the way out to center. And Anderson there. Gets to the Oiler line and slides the puck in with under 20 seconds to go in the first period. Darnell Nurse. Around to Marinch. Brown from center banks the puck in. And Luongo helps it along to Garrison. He gets the puck out, and that'll do it for the first period. A fast start for the Edmonton Oilers. And a tough start for Roberto Luongo, whose Canucks are down 4-1.
The Oilers out shooting the Canucks in the first 5 minutes, 9-0. Had that power play goal just after a power play and continued on from there.
Big period for Jordan Eberle of the Oilers. He had a goal and 2 assists. And we're going to hear from Jordan Eberle. He'll be joining Dan Murphy in our first intermission, but that's not all. We got the local guys to dissect this first period. Gary Volk and Don Taylor. And we'll send it to them now. Donnie?
Welcome back to Vancouver, where it's been all Edmonton in this hockey game so far. 4 goals in that first period on 14 shots. Eberle scored and had a couple of assists, making it 4-0 before the Canucks, well, they responded with one of their own. Brendan Gaunce, his second of the preseason. Father-son combo of sorts in this game. John.
Well, you've got Will Acton of the Edmonton Oilers, and we mentioned earlier, of course, his dad, Keith Acton, is behind the Edmonton bench, so there's that, but this goes on because there are some other interesting father-son, not combos in this game, but guys in this game whose dads played in the NHL. Patrick Mullen for the Canucks, his dad Joe was in the NHL. There's Patrick, and then there's Brandon DeFazio for the Canucks, and his dad, Dean DeFazio, played 22 games for Pittsburgh in 1984. All of the 3 games that year he played against Vancouver, John Garrett was in goal. And in fact, John Garrett played against all 3 of these dads, and I'm guessing none of those combined goals were against you.
No. I'm sure Joe Mullen had some against me. There'd be no doubt about that. Keith Acton wasn't a real goal scorer, so... and you have to remember that Will Acton played for the Marlies last year. And who was the coach of the Marlies? Dallas Eakins.
There you go.
So I think that Dallas, because he's so familiar with Will Acton, a good acquisition for the Oilers.
So the list of guys in the league whose dads you played against just continues to grow.
Yes.
And here's an early offside whistle.
I don't mind when they're younger guys like this, but I played with Shane Doan's dad. And Shane Doan is old now. I mean, and that's when you get to date yourself with guys like that. His nickname is Woody. You see Woody Allen? If he had a hat on, does he look like Woody Allen? That's where he got his nickname.
All right.
You don't see it. Come on.
Well, I'd have to see him with a hat on. My powers of creative thinking are just not that strong.
No.
Canucks are playing down a defenseman to begin the second period. John Negrin, who is injured when he caught an edge in that chase with a puck with Boyd Gordon, has not returned. And So Vancouver down to 5D as Nick Jensen passes to the blue line out of the reach of Jason Garrison. Kevin Bieksa drives the puck back in. Jensen waiting at the right point. Looks in front. Pass deflects through. Here's Daniel Sedin trying to send one in front. Puck comes to Jensen but bounces over his stick. And Ryan Smith one-hands it ahead to Ales Hemsky. Hemsky with a move to the inside. That's broken up. Jensen ahead to Henrik Sedin. Try to drop pass for Zach Kassian. And that was broken up by Edmonton. Just over a minute into the second period. Andrew Ference under pressure deep in his own zone. Kassian moves to check Hemsky. Keeps digging for the puck. Ference stands Kassian up. And the Oilers come up with the puck. Justin Schultz skates it ahead. Pass for Hall, who was checked by Daniel Sedin. Canucks have 3 to the Oiler line. Here's Kassian fighting the puck a bit. Puts it on the forehand. Now tries to step around Ference, who sprawled and broke up the rush. It was a promising looking rush, but the Canucks couldn't make anything of it. And now the Oilers contact the puck with a high stick.
End of a long shift, and you could see Zach Kassian, by the time he got the puck, he had nothing left. And John Tortorella talked about the training camp that the Canucks have gone through, and Gary Volk mentioned that the players looked a little tired, and here's Zach Kassian, his shift, he was in on the forecheck, and then by the time they got the 3-on-2, he had nothing left to go to the net.
Jannik Hansen chomps the puck inside the Oiler blue line. Garrison ahead of the play after the puck. Now he has to hustle back as the Oilers' Eberle moves in with a drop pass intended for Perron that was off the mark. Oilers keep the puck in. Boyd Gordon. Eberle falls down going after the puck. Perron keeps it alive with a pass into the corner for Gordon. Now David Perron. Round to the other side, Brad Hunt. Full 360 in the corner. Perron with a weak pass picked off by Mullen. Again, the Canucks fail to get the puck there. Eberle on the right side. Into the corner for Gordon. Boyd Gordon to the crease. Eberle stopped by Luongo twice. And the Canucks clear the puck to the side. Close call there. Eberle got good wood on the initial backhander. Now Johansson. Oilers have been able to change here. Canucks with some tired legs on the ice and a deflected shot as Eberle was able to tip that one, and Luongo made another save and held on.
Roberto's made 2 very good saves here early in the second period. After a tough first period. Follows it very well, gets the pads down, stops the original shot, and that second one, as you said, was deflected. He was in good position and was able to hang on.
Oilers with the only 2 shots of the period thus far. They've outshot Vancouver 16-8 in the hockey game. Face-off win for Arcobello. And a centering pass deflects over to Darnell Nurse. Checked by Brendan Gaunce. Anderson after the puck in the corner. Works it free to Gaunce. And Mike Santorelli starts out with a pass to Kevin Bieksa. Bieksa flips the puck forward. Oilers chop it the other way. And it's brought through center by Tyler Pitlick. Check to the blue line, and that forced the play offside on the whistle. We'll check in with Murph.
John, who you got tomorrow night? Big one. KC 2-0 under new head coach Andy Reid, taking on Philadelphia. 5 o'clock start, Pacific region.
Canucks can use some hurry-up offense here.
Yes.
John.
Wonder what the over-under is in that one, Philadelphia. Potential to score a lot of points. Is that Andy Reid back?
Yeah, that's right. Kansas City and Philadelphia. Good call. Here's Justin Schultz here. Drop pass broken up. Jason Garrison winds up with the puck. Feeds it to Chris Tanev. Ahead to Nick Jensen. Touch pass to Brad Richardson. In over the Oiler line. Richardson looking for room. Back to Garrison. Steps around his man. Gets tripped up. Will be a penalty. As Garrison going after that puck was upended by Will Acton. And the Canucks get their first power play of the hockey game.
Don Van Massenhoven makes the call. One of my favorite referees in the NHL. Nice play by Richardson to start the play, and Jason Garrison is by Acton.
So he reaches out with the stick, takes him down, and takes the penalty.
Got that. He'll be grounded. He'll be
Yes.
grounded after the game for that. Canucks have the Sedins in this game. They come out to start the power play. Daniel with a spinning centering pass on the backhand intended for Kassian. That was broken up, and the Oilers get the puck down the ice. Different personnel, but for what it's worth, the Canucks went 0 for 5 against San Jose in their first game of the preseason. Canucks 22nd on the power play last year, the abbreviated season, and wanting obviously to improve on that. Here's Garrison with a one-timer. That missed the net. Puck comes to Henrik Sedin on the left wing. Pass for Daniel. Didn't quite click. Garrison moves ahead to knock the puck away from Nick Schultz. And now battles for it. Kassian's there as well. Kassian finds some room in the corner. Back to Bieksa. Slap pass, and Garrison missed deflecting it at the side of the goal. Bieksa again. Daniel Sedin couldn't handle his pass, and Perron is able to backhand the puck down the ice.
Well, that was a good scoring chance. Kevin Bieksa trying to set up Jason Garrison. He just missed the tip in.
Oilers finished 9th in the NHL on the penalty kill last year. We're top 10 on both sides of the ledger, in fact. And now the puck shot into the Edmonton bench. So the face-off will stay in the Oilers zone with 45 seconds to go in the penalty.
We talked about the Canucks power play last year, and here's the young guys. Shinkaruk is out, and a chance on the power play to get things going. He played on Wednesday. He was on the A group on the power play. Here he's out there with Bo Horvat and Jannik Hansen.
They're going to take a look at Mike Santorelli on the point as well. 2 right-hand shots on the blue line, Santorelli and Chris Tanev. Oilers get possession of the puck. Justin Schultz rings it around and down. And Vancouver will have to start from deep in its own end with 35 seconds to go on the penalty to Will Acton. Hansen through center. Now a pass in front for Hansen. Try to deke, and the puck winds up in the glove of Dubnyk. Might have hit the goaltender's stick and then gone up in the air as Hansen played give and go and had a good chance.
Well, Jannik Hansen right down the middle, but he got in so tight that the pass was off his skates and he couldn't do much with it. Pass then right down the middle, off his skate to the backhand, and he couldn't control it to get it to the forehand, and Dubnyk able to play it off his stick into his glove.
Counts as the first official shot of the period. Here's Hemsky stepping around Bieksa. And Alex Hemsky killing more time, slides the puck in behind the Vancouver goal. 10 seconds to go on the Vancouver power play. Bieksa to center. Drops for Henrik Sedin. Up the left side to Daniel Sedin. Tries a slap shot. Tip rebound. Kassian stopped by Dubnyk. Now another chance put to the crease. And Dubnyk reaching back knocked the puck away. Second chance was the best one. Oilers back to full strength. Bieksa with a shot that missed the net, with Kassian screening in front. So a couple of key stops for Devan Dubnyk to keep the Oilers up by 3. Kassian couldn't handle that pass at center. Oilers, Arcabello slides the puck into the corner, now goes after it himself. Tried to pass behind the net for Ryan Smith, that was blocked. Smith gets the puck again. Tries to hook it in front. Canucks intercept. Kassian works it out. He and Daniel Sedin would like to get off the ice. Daniel's able to get to the bench, but Kassian's still out there. Now he peels off on a change as Bieksa goes back for the puck. Onto it is Hunter Shinkaruk. Gets to center and flips the puck into Edmonton territory. Martin Marincin. Checked by Bo Horvat. Puck comes to Joensuu, and he feeds across to Hunt. Up for Joensuu, trying to move in on the left side. Stood up by Tanev, who sends the puck the other way. Hansen's in on the right wing. Jannik Hansen, centering pass. Here's a deke by Horvat, and a shot on the backhand, stopped by Devan Dubnyk. Canucks with the last 4 shots in the game. But still trailing by 3 as we approach the 8-minute mark of the second period. Boyd Gordon Flips the puck to the blue line, held in by Garrison. Andrew Ference passes along the inboards, and Martin Marincin sends the puck ahead. Here's David Perron moving in. Perron with a centering feed. Gordon couldn't knock it down. Gets to the puck on the right side, sends it behind the net. Garrison clears to the line. Waiting there is Justin Schultz. Schultz with a wrist shot, didn't get through. Puck loose on the near side. Ben Eager is there for Edmonton. And the Canucks, DeFazio able to reach out and tip the puck to the Oiler blue line. Edmonton sends it to center, and here's Ben Eager. Onto the right wing, Schultz jumps up into the play. Justin Schultz puts one in front, just knocked away as Acton was after that puck on the doorstep. DeFazio slides one ahead, but it's out of the reach of Santorelli. DeFazio falling on, holds the puck in with a wrist shot just wide on the short side. Gonks tries to pass down the boards, and a shot by Santorelli, a weak one, flutters through to Dubnyk, who hangs on for the whistle. Dubnyk's given up one, and Kassian thought he had a second Vancouver goal, but Devin Dubnyk lunging said no.
Soccer tomorrow on Sportsnet across the board. It's UEFA Europa League, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Sportsnet East, Ontario, West, Pacific, One, World, and 360. The first period we saw John Negrin catch an edge and go heavily into the boards. Left the hockey game at that time, has not returned, will not return with an undisclosed injury. The same can be said for Patrick Mullen.
You could see Mullen there in front of Negrin, so he was all right at that point of the hockey game. But the Canucks down to 4 defensemen. And now an interference call will put Vancouver shorthanded as Anderson heads to the box, and while he sits, Vancouver will be down to 3 defensemen.
Well, Anderson turning just didn't have the foot speed to get there, so slides over, takes out Jordan Eberle, and puck's already by him, so he's in the penalty box for interference.
Now in the past, in situations like this, we've always, when the Canucks have their regular lineup, pointed to Alex Burrows as being the natural to slide back and play some shifts on the blue line. Canucks may have to deploy someone here in the shorthanded situation unless one of their defensemen plays the full 2 minutes. Right now it's Garrison and Bieksa. As the Oilers get their second power play, they're 0 for 1, but scored a goal 1 second after Kevin Bieksa's penalty had expired in the first period. That was the 1-0 goal by Eberle. Here's Justin Schultz. Down to Ryan Smith. He passes to Taylor Hall. Hemsky to Hall. Hall to Hemsky. Back to Hall. Schultz with room. Takes a look. Lets it go. That hit a body in front. And Richardson able to send the puck down the ice. And now we're going to have a look at who's playing D. Mike Santorelli is going to play defense here with Chris Tannen. So Santorelli in a short-handed situation, playing defense for the Vancouver Canucks. I guess whatever it takes to make the team jump.
Utility man.
The Jose Oquendo of the Vancouver Canucks. Did I date myself?
Yes, yes you did.
Just over 40 seconds to go on the Anderson penalty. And Eberle steps in on the left side. Leaves for Martin Marincin. He runs into Daniel Sedin. We see the Sedin's killing penalties too. That's been a storyline heading into this camp. Henrik in on the right side. Round behind the net. Now throws one in front. That deflects out to center. And Kevin Bieksa is over to pick up that puck. Bieksa now joined on the ice by Garrison as Santorelli's shift on the blue line is done, and he's on the Vancouver bench.
Henrik and Daniel killed penalties for Team Sweden in the World Championships this year. A victory for Team Sweden in those championships.
5 seconds to go on the penalty to Peter Anderson. And now he's out of the box, and the Oilers are 0 for 2 on the power play. Still leading 4-1. We get an offside whistle and a chance to step aside from Rogers Arena. Preseason Canucks action. You're watching it live on Sportsnet Pacific.
Take the whole family to a game with Canucks Family Night Packs presented by QMFM and Cineplex. Save up to $20 off each ticket. Receive 10% off at the team store. And get a free Cineplex Family Fun Pack complete with 4 movie tickets plus popcorn and drinks at the theater. Visit Canucks.com for more information.
You gone to the movies lately?
Lately.
Monsters
Yes.
Monsters Inc. 2 or any of those?
Monsters U it was, wasn't it?
Monsters U, yes.
Saw the Smurfs.
Yes. Planes.
There's a Gaunt's chance, a wraparound attempt. And now he'll join the conversation to the side of the goal after Dubnyk grabbed the puck and held on.
Your kids are probably too old for planes. That's a little...
Saw Percy Jackson. Are we going to go through the whole list of things I've seen?
I did see Percy Jackson. I saw that too.
20 Feet from Stardom. That was good. It's a documentary. It'd be a little above your head.
The Butler. I enjoyed The Butler. I went to see that.
Did it ring true with your service staff at home? Did it?
Yes. Look out.
Here's a chance for a 2-on-1. Ryan Smith moving in. Smith tried a centering pass, and it deflected towards the goal, and Luongo was able to hang the left pass. Martin Marincin, who has a goal in this game, tries a shot. He was knocked down by DeFazio. Marincin again. Cuts in front on the backhand, and reaching in was Peter Anderson to deflect that shot over the glass for a whistle.
You can see Roberto Luongo give Peter Anderson a little tap on the pads. During the lockout, I had an opportunity to do a bunch of American League games, and they compared Peter Anderson to Alex Edler. The way he plays, same size. The Swedish defenseman uses his reach very well, and there's Peter Anderson reaching in and tipping that one up over the glass.
Mike Sullivan with some words of instruction and encouragement, you would assume. As Anderson gets a breather, he's going to see a lot of ice time down the stretch here with Vancouver playing with 4 defensemen. Garrison shoots the puck around, held in by Hunt. Bieksa knocked down. Garrison sends the puck forward. Oh, Jensen got hit hard by Mike Brown, but he bounces back up, and here's Bieksa with the puck. Bieksa just onside with his teammates on the right side. Van Eager picks up the loose puck and gets it out. Canucks with the last 6 shots in the hockey game now, and here's Richardson in looking for another off the arm of Dubnyk, who steered that behind the net. Eager to Acton. He wants a change. Jason Garrison with a long lead pass. Hansen tried to tip it for Shinkaruk. That didn't work. Shinkaruk closes the gap on Schultz. But the puck comes free to Jordan Eberle, who brings it to center on the right side. David Perron on the backhand behind the Vancouver goal. Luongo cuts it off and finds Tanev. Tanev, give and go with Anderson. Shinkaruk ahead for Tanev. He's in. Chris Tanev with a wrist shot and a stick save by Dubnyk. Tanev got his first career goal against Devin Dubnyk. That was an overtime winner in Edmonton last season. Foiled on that attempt, and the Oilers' Ferentz brings the puck to center and slides into Vancouver zone. Long pass for Hansen. Over to check in was Nurse. Nick Schultz can't clear past Hansen in the corner. Kicks the puck to Daniel Sedin. Now Hansen picks it up again. To the blue line. Garrison with a drive, and that deflected wide of the goal. Bieksa can't hold the puck, and it's brought to center by Tyler Pitlick. Pitlick drops. Arcabello centering pass. Broken up by Kassian. And here comes Henrik Sedin. Kassian going to the net. Henrik tried a drop pass for Garrison, and that was easily broken up. Back come the Oilers. Pitlick in with Arcabello. And a sharp angle backhander by Pitlick stopped by Luongo. Oilers center, nobody there, and the puck slides down into Edmonton territory. Inside 6 minutes left in the second period. All the scoring came in the first. Edmonton up 4-1. Here's a chance for Hall. He shoots Luongo the save, and he gathers the puck for a whistle. Opening up a bit. Canucks out shooting the Oilers in the second. Unable to score, however, and it's still a 3-goal game. Canucks will hit the halfway point of the preseason on the weekend, and then Phoenix is in Vancouver here on Sportsnet on Monday, the Coyotes and the Canucks. Meanwhile, those of you watching on Sportsnet West, the first regular season telecast, the Oilers home to the New Jersey Devils on October the 7th here on Sportsnet West.
With the passionate crew of Kevin Quinn and Gene Principe and Louis DeBrusk, all your Edmonton Oiler favorites.
There's a penalty coming up here to Marincin. for interference as he got in the way of Brandon DeFazio chasing after a puck, and the Canucks will get a power play here with 5:37 to go in the second period.
In the period, they've been much better. They've got their legs and they've been skating, getting some chances on the rush. And here's another one. DeFazio is by Marincin, and he had to skate across, much like the Anderson penalty, and ends up with the interference.
Second power play for the Canucks. Sedins and Kassian come out with Bieksa and Garrison. And Bieksa has the puck at the blue line, wrists it in front. That was blocked by Nick Schultz. Nurse clears to the line. Bieksa's there to hold the puck here. Henrik Sedin, pass for Garrison, tipped away, but he holds the puck into the right point. Daniel Sedin back to Jason Garrison. Bieksa wants the one-timer. There it is. Kicked out. Rebound. Henrik Sedin couldn't jam it home. After Dubnyk made a nifty save on the first attempt by Kevin Bieksa. Bieksa banks the puck to Henrik Sedin. Garrison with a drive, tipped away by Nick Schultz. Here's Daniel Sedin, shielding the puck on the right side. Daniel under pressure. Still has the puck. Back to Garrison. Bieksa with room. Takes a look, and he fires wide on the short side. Minute 10 to go in the power play. Daniel Sedin to Henrik Sedin. Couldn't get the pass through. Now Daniel gets the puck to Henrik again on the right wing. Kassian trying to find room in the slot as Henrik takes a pass in the corner. Back to Garrison. Over to Bieksa. One-timer. Double deflection, and it just went wide after hitting Kassian in the right foot, it looked like. Here's Garrison to Bieksa one more time. Over to Garrison. He shoots. Blocked by Gordon, and that hurt. Boyd Gordon stays out there, but you can tell he's hurting. Daniel Sedin back to Garrison. Lets it go, and that was blocked again. That hit Schultz. Canucks can't get the shots through. Garrison will try one more time, and a blocker saved by Dubnyk, who wisely steered that one over the glass. And Gordon, hunched over, is able to head towards the Edmonton bench.
Well, good puck movement, a couple of good chances, and the Edmonton Oilers collapsing in front of Devan Dubnyk, blocking the shots. Kevin Bieksa takes a shot, and that's a good save by Devan Dubnyk. Tip in by Zach Kassian, try. And then the long wrist shot tipped by Dubnyk up and over the glass. Keith Acton was a pretty good penalty killer when he played, and you can tell the Oilers, very good last year, but will be better with Keith Acton running the penalty kill.
Here's Santorelli, under 20 seconds to go in the power play. Tanev at the blue line. Chris Tanev with a wrist shot, that missed the net. Santorelli hustles down from the left point and keeps the puck here. Turning in the corner, passes back. Tanev with room, near side. Shinkaruk fakes the shot, puts it in front. Puck deflects back to Tanev. To Shinkaruk once more, tried to center, broken up by Ferentz, and Marincin out of the box. A little too eager, couldn't handle the puck, and he would have had a clean-cut breakaway. Canucks 0 for 2 on the power play. Still trailing 4-1 as Joensuu moves in on the left wing, and his pass in front is blocked by Anderson. Luongo knocks the puck to the side, and Jannik Hansen skates it to center. Hansen gets around Arcavello, now puts one in front out of the reach of Shinkaruk. Shinkaruk goes down as he goes after the puck, and it's out to center ice onto the stick of Peter Anderson. 3 minutes left, second period. Oilers still leading 4-1. Joensuu hit the linesman with that one. Kyle Murchison. Puck comes free to Arcavello, and he dumps it into the Vancouver zone. The Oilers make a full change. Bieksa, weak clearing attempt. And the Oilers have the puck. Mike Brown behind the net, picked off by Brad Richardson. He gets it to the line, not out. Nick Schultz in front for Acton. He collects the puck in the corner. Will Acton cycles for Brown, the former Canuck. Anderson breaks that up. Jensen up the middle. Stewart relays to Richardson. In with Jensen. Jensen trying a wrist shot. That was blocked by Nick Schultz. Schultz rings the puck to the near side, and there to pick it up is Ben Eager. Eager's pass deflects to the Vancouver blue line. Tanev plays the puck the other way. Jensen overskated it. Still loose at the Oiler blue line, and gathered by Jordan Eberle. Under 2 minutes to go in the second. Nurse with the puck. Ahead to Eberle. Working on Tanev. Eberle stops, spins. Arcavello there. And he gets the puck to the blue line to Ferentz. Right point. Schultz And Justin Schultz's pass broken up. Brandon DeFazio gets the puck, sends it forward for Santorelli, but that's broken up by Justin Schultz. Garrison sends the puck the other way, and Brendan Gaunce gives chase. He's got teammates in front. There's a centering pass, and a weak shot by DeFazio flutters wide of the goal. DeFazio from behind the net. Puck loose in the corner. Anderson moves down for the blue line. Santorelli after the puck. Eberle there for Edmonton. Tips it to the near corner. Bieksa moves down from the right point. Hooks the puck back for Gaunce, but it's over his stick and down the ice as we move into the final minute of the second period. Here's Anderson. Henrik Sedin passes to Zach Kassian in with a wrist shot attempt, and that's off an Oilers stick and over the glass for a whistle. Murph.
Yes, John, in this issue of Sportsnet magazine, Sen star Bobby Ryan opens up about his childhood, being on the run from the FBI. Now he survived it all. Subscribe now at www.sportsnet.ca/magazine.
Face-off in the Oilers zone. Canucks looking for a late one, having the Sedins on the ice. Kassian in the corner. Behind the net for Henrik Sedin. Nick Schultz did a good job to break that up. And he passes to Ales Hemsky. Hemsky sends one ahead, hoping Hall can skate onto it. He does. He's in on goal. Luongo to his knees makes the save as Hall made it deep to the backhand. Darnell Nurse with some nifty stick work to the blue line, able to hold the puck in. Here's Smith centering. Hemsky shoots wide with Luongo lunging with the glove. Felt like Don Cherry there for a second. Did I say Luongo? Taylor Hall in on the left wing. Hall. Hard pass to the other side, and that'll do it for the opening period. No scoring, better period for the Canucks, but they're still down by a healthy 3 goals.
There's Joakim Eriksson, who's scheduled to play the third period. I would assume they'd continue with the plan. A much better period for the Canucks and an easier period for Roberto Luongo. He made 2 real good saves early in that second period. Calm things down.
Canucks still with a big hill to climb, but have to feel better after their performance in the second period. We'll hear from Mike Santorelli. He'll be with Murph and able to talk about the shift he had to take on defense with the Canucks down to 4D. They're down 3 goals, Don, heading to the third.
Welcome back to Vancouver. Oilers, Canucks. It's getting set to start the third period. Shots in this game have evened up. The score certainly has not. A better period for Vancouver, shooting the Oilers 10-4, but Devan Dubnyk perfect in that period, giving up just 1 goal and 18 shots so far in this hockey game. Now again, take the whole family to a game with the Canucks Family Night Packs presented by QMFM and Cineplex. Save up to $20 off each ticket. Receive 10% off at the team store and get a free Cineplex Family Fun Pack, complete with 4 movie tickets plus popcorn and drinks at the theater. Visit Canucks.com for details. This was the scene this morning at Rogers Arena after the playing group got off the ice. It was the non-playing group. And good news, as David Booth was on the ice for the first time this entire camp with teammates. Guys.
Well, that is good news. Canucks with some injury concerns tonight on defense, John, but having David Booth potentially healthy for opening night would certainly bolster the top 6.
And it must be such a thrill for him to get back out on the ice with the teammates. It's one of the worst things, rehabbing by yourself. And he is a fitness fanatic, as you well know, John. I mean, he's one of the best conditioned guys there is. But it's so lonely, and it's hard to motivate yourself when you're working by yourself.
As scheduled, a goaltending change for the third period. Joakim Eriksson. Joakim Anderson being a Detroit Red Wing, but Joakim Eriksson is the Canuck goaltender who takes over from Roberto Luongo, who had the tough start and not so busy second period. Wound up stopping 14 of 18 shots through 40 minutes, and now it's the 23-year-old from Sweden, the southpaw, who takes over in goal, and he might face an early test here, but Mike Brown fanned on the shot. Kevin Bieksa was tripped up, but here comes Mike Santorelli. Centering pass for Brendan Gaunce. Backhand attempt towards the goal. Winds up in the corner. Nurse and Santorelli fight for the puck there. Garrison moves down from the left point for Vancouver. Gauntz after the puck. Will Acton chips it to the side. Again, Garrison is in deep. And he passes behind the net for Gauntz. Puck deflects in front. Tipped away by Darnell Nurse, who's now under pressure from Mike Santorelli. Acton joins the battle for the puck. Bieksa's turn to move in deep. Takes on Eager. Bieksa. Puck deflects to Santorelli. Centering pass off the skate to DeFazio. Here's Garrison with a wrist shot wide of the goal. Santorelli from behind the net. Comes out on the backhand. Knocked off the puck. Nick Schultz with the defensive play. And Schultz able to work the puck to center. Bieksa chips it to an open side. DeFazio will stay out, skate onto that puck with a slap shot off the left shoulder of Devin Dubnyk. And that stung. Dubnyk a little shaken up, but he's back on his feet. Wincing a bit as that rising slap shot caught him on the left shoulder. Oilers trying to move the puck out, and it's fed through to Taylor Hall, who gets through center. Hall in over the Vancouver line. Checked by Anderson. There's a Vancouver penalty on the play, a hooking call. And the Canucks with the good early pressure to start the period, but will be shorthanded as Colin Stewart heads to the box.
Well, Devin Dubnyk takes this DeFazio shot off the left shoulder. You see the way he reacted. Santorelli with a nice move, but then gets pushed off the puck by Nick Schultz. A little off balance as he reached for that puck.
Stewart in the box for hooking, and the Oilers get their third power play. Joachim Eriksson maybe faces first test here with his team shorthanded. Again, if you're just joining us, the Canucks down to 4 defensemen. And we may see Mike Santorelli on defense on this penalty killing situation, although they do have the 4 defensemen available to them, so that's unlikely. Andrew Ference with a shot attempt that went wide of the goal. Jordan Eberle, checked by Daniel Sedin. He breaks out with brother Henrik. Daniel in on the right wing. Daniel Sedin cuts in front. He tries a shot, and that was blocked by Andrew Ference. David Perron the other way. 4 Oilers through center. Eberle on the right wing. Tried to pass through. That was knocked away by Kevin Bieksa, who's upended in the corner. Puck comes free to Daniel Sedin. He's checked immediately by Arcobello. Daniel takes a couple of hits, but stays on the puck. It eventually winds up on the stick of Henrik Sedin, who backhands it down the ice. Penalty to Stewart is half over. Oilers have not tested Joachim Eriksson as of yet. Here's Hall on the right side. Overskated the puck, but got it back. Brings it around to the left point. Oilers set it up from there. Brad Hunt to Ryan Smith, back to Hunt. Here's Alashemsky. Into the corner, Hall. Back to Hunt. Slap shot, blocked. Ryan Smith on the rebound, slides one to the side of the net. Hall takes the puck to the corner. Taylor Hall tried to hook one across the ice. That's picked off by Zach Kassian, who dumps the puck down with 20 seconds to go in the Edmonton power play.
Kassian and Gauntz in the second penalty kill unit.
Richardson out with Santorelli for the waning seconds of the power play. Tyler Pitlick dumps the puck in. Boyd Gordon's after it for Edmonton. Banks it to the blue line. Here's Nurse. Near side, Pitlick slap shot blocked by Anderson. Oilers get it to the line again. Nurse in behind, cut off by Tanev. He's hit hard. Arcobello stepped into it. Puck comes free to Johansson to the blue line. Nick Schultz at the right point. Schultz wrists one on goal, stopped by Eriksson. Loose puck, he's got it under his pad. And Joachim Eriksson gets the whistle just past the 4-minute mark of the third.
You wonder with Henrik and Daniel killing penalties whether their Canucks will be a shorthanded threat. I think Henrik and Daniel both love to carry the puck, love to go. Daniel cuts across. Andrew Ference does a nice job blocking that shot. Joachim Eriksson, good position. Original save, and then get the pads tight to the ice to make the second save.
He's faced 2 shots, as has Devin Dubnyk here in the third period. Here's hybrid icing, Hansen winning the race, and so play continues. They waved it off once Hansen got to the dot and was clearly ahead of the race. Here's Garrison at the line, slap shot blocked, and Mike Brown felt that. Horvat from behind the net. Hybrid icing not necessarily going to be used in the regular season. It's being tested here in the preseason, and then will have to be voted on. Whistle blows. Here's Murph.
Playoff crunch is on in baseball. Yankees still trying to make a push. They'll take on the Blue Jays tomorrow. Coverage beginning 3:30 in the Pacific region on Sportsnet 360.
Boy, that was a tough loss for the Jays today. Had 3-0 and going into the 8th.
Nice ovation for Happ as he left the game, and before he knew it, the bullpen had thrown some gas on him. Here's Bieksa with a drive off his stick and up in the air to Dubnyk, who grabs that one. Can of corn.
Devin Dubnyk's an interesting guy because last year he had Nikolai Habibulin behind him, but Habibulin was hurt to start the year, so Dubnyk in the shortened season had no pressure at all. Now he's got Jason LaBarbera, who's a great backup goaltender, and Jason's obviously not there right now.
That's Ty Rimmer.
Ty Rimmer, but he's going to have some pressure because LaBarbera can come in and play some games. And to me, Devin Dubnyk really hasn't proven that he's a number one guy yet. The team's been so bad, you expect to lose every night you go out.
Boy, they're gonna be happy to have Kevin and Louis back. Too.
Yes, I know.
Here's Cassian on the left wing. Zach Cassian centering pass. Tanev off the arm of Dubnyk, who came charging out and got the left hand on that shot from Chris Tanev. Anderson, slap shot. That's wide of the goal. Henrik Sedin from behind the net. Andrew Ferentz ties up Henrik. Daniel Sedin gets the puck on the right wing. Tries to get it back to the blue line to Tanev. That was blocked. Garrison down for the left point. Henrik Sedin battling Boyd Gordon. Daniel Sedin pokes the puck free to Cassian, brings it out front of the backhand. Puck is still loose at the side. Canucks fishing for it. Daniel Sedin gets it into the right wing corner to Henrik. Henrik back to Bieksa. Canucks have changed their right defense. Here's Garrison with a rising slap shot. Dubnyk was shaken up by it. Puck fell free. Now he's onto it. But it appeared that for the second time this period, Dubnyk's been shaken up by a hard slapper.
It looks like he's going to be all right. Here's a puck across to Jason Garrison, who tees it up. Now the goal, he doesn't see it coming across. Schultz slides across, and Dubnyk didn't pick it up until it was past Schultz. And here's a chance on the rush. The Canucks throw it across. Chris Tanev comes in, and Dubnyk out well to make that save.
Canucks are the edge in shots in the hockey game now, 23-20. And have outshot the Oilers 5-2 here in the third. There's another one from Garrison and an easy glove save for Dubnyk.
Now getting back to Dubnyk and the attitude, I think that's the thing, and I am not questioning Devin Dubnyk's ability, but it's a different attitude when you're expected to win. And I think now the Oilers are in that position where they're expected to win. And so it puts more pressure on the goaltender, and Devin Dubnyk, and I mean, he's played well in spurts, but can he play consistently well enough to play 65, 70 games and be the number one guy that gets them into the playoffs?
Given up one in this game on 24 shots. Marincin back to the puck, ahead to Ales Hemsky, who drops it back again. Martin Marincin around to Hunt, and he had managed to Taylor Hall. Hall takes a return feed from Ryan Smith, moves in. Here's Smith trying to get in behind the net, checked by Anderson. Hall blindly threw that one in front, hoping to find Hemsky, but the Canucks intercept, and here's Bieksa joining the rush. Bieksa in on the left wing, centering pass, and Mike Santorelli unable to make contact. Nearing the 7-minute mark, third period, Hemsky sends the puck in, and both teams start to change as Anderson goes back for Vancouver. Chris Tanev up ahead. Nicholas Jensen slides the puck in. Dubnyk just got it by Richardson, and the Oilers move the puck out to center. Tanev looks up ice. Richardson, nice touch pass. Jensen moves it. Puck knocked away from him as he tried to gather it for a wrist shot, and the Oilers able to clear the puck down. Tanev takes a hard hit from Tyler Pitlick. Joensuu's onto the puck for Edmonton, dropping it back to Andrew Ference. Up ahead, Pitlick, nice tip pass. Arcabello in with a wrist shot. He missed the net. Puck loose in the corner. Picked up by Garrison. Long lead pass, hoping to find Yannick Hansen. And Mike Brown intercepted that one. Ference to Brown, and here's Justin Schultz. Tips the puck ahead. Will Acton moves it. Puck knocked away from him, and Garrison sends it ahead. No icing. Dubnyk out to play the puck as we hit the 8-minute mark of the third. Acton back to the puck, leaves in the corner for Eager, and he slides it forward to Brown. 3 Oilers through center. Brown stops inside the line, throws one in front for Acton, who couldn't make contact. Eager holds the puck into the right point. Cleared away by Anderson and out to center ice. Here's Brad Hunt. Ahead for David Perron. Missed all that time, did Perron. After the hit from Joe Thornton caused him the concussion. Back in the 2010-11 season, missed 98 games total, but got back to health and then got to be an Oiler in the trade for Magnus Piarvi.
Played all 48 games last year in the shortened season for the St. Louis Blues.
He's in the battle for the puck. Gordon has it. Trying to tip it free for Eberle. Tanev gets in the way of that and finds the open Bo Horvat. The 18-year-old tried a long pass for Kassian, and that's picked off by Perron. Ahead to Eberle. In on the right side with a wrist shot, and off the shoulder of Eriksson, who was able to hang on after juggling the puck. And the Canucks make sure they clear the Oilers out. Joachim Eriksson with a stop there. Canucks, though, still down 4-1.
Get your official Canucks calendar at your local pharmacy, available October 1st. Includes an exclusive Canucks photo book. It's only $6.99 with partial proceeds benefiting the Canucks for Kids Fund in support of Canuck Place. Official Canucks 2013-2014 calendar exclusively at Pharmacy while supplies last.
A lot of talk about deployment, John, and this is the second time in the game that the Sedins have come off the bench for a defensive zone faceoff.
And both here in the third period.
Another one off an icing call where they had to stay out. We've seen them kill penalties in this game.
They had 14 in the first 2 periods, and none of them were in the defensive zone.
Here's Daniel Sedin in on the left side. Kassian on the other side. Bank pass intercepted by Hall. And the Oilers work the puck ahead to Ryan Smith. Hemsky avoided a collision with teammates. Now Hall is in on the left side. Throws one on goal. Stopped by Eriksson. Rebound cleared to the side by Garrison. Here's Smith. Pass in front, tipped away by Jason Garrison. And Henrik Sedin passes back to Zach Kassian. By himself with his team changing. Kassian with a wrist shot attempt that's steered to the corner by the Oiler defense. Gauntz got in the way of that pass. After the puck was DeFazio, but couldn't catch up. Now he turns and slams the puck into the Oilers zone. Back out to center. Peter Anderson across to Chris Tanev. DeFazio able to tip the puck over the Oiler blue line. Past the halfway mark, third period. Edmonton 4, Vancouver 1. And all 5 goals came in the first 13 minutes of the game. There's a stop by Eriksson off Arcabello. And the puck worked free to DeFazio, sends it ahead to Gauntz. Gauntz to Santorelli. And he chips the puck in behind the Oiler net. 9 minutes to go in the third. Justin Schultz brings the puck out. Gets it past Eriksson. Acton in behind for Brown. Will Acton finds some room in the corner. Pass for Brown, comes up front, stopped by Eriksson, who didn't know where the puck was, but he's got it underneath his pads after going to his knees to make the stop. Joachim Eriksson, his first performance with the big club, and he stops Mike Brown to keep it 4-1.
Pizza Hut wants you to win an autographed Canucks jersey with their Eat Pizza Win swag contest every week from September to November. One lucky fan will win a signed jersey. Just go to pizzahut.ca or call 310-1010 to order and you're automatically entered to win. Pizza Hut, the official pizza of the Vancouver Canucks.
Another contest you would excel at.
Yes, thin crust, pepperoni and pineapple.
Here's Shinkarickin on the left wing. Hunter Shinkarik. And that one deflected off the side of the net. And behind, the Oilers break it out. 4 of them to center. Eberle takes the pass on the right side, but Perron, who made the pass, just preceded the puck into the zone, and Edmonton's called for offside.
Eriksson's an interesting story. He originally drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers, and when he came to camp, he said he just didn't feel like he belonged. He was in awe of the other goaltenders there, and now he's a little older and played on a championship team and feeling much more confident, and he does have a shot.
Last 3 years in the Swedish Elite League, signed a 2-year, two-way free agent deal in the offseason with the Canucks. Daniel Sedin with a hooking centering pass that hit the side of the goal. Henrik gets the puck to Daniel. In behind for Kassian, out of his reach. Bieksa moves down from the right point. Back to Daniel Sedin. He flips one in front. Puck winds up in the corner. Kassian's there. Henrik Sedin from behind the net. Bieksa's moved right in front. Covering for him at the blue line is Daniel Sedin. And Daniel over to hold the puck in. Down for Bieksa, lets it go through to Henrik. Henrik Sedin trying to find Kassian. Hunt stepped in front of that one. Henrik onto the puck, throws it in front. Ales Hemsky right there. And Hemsky brings the puck to center, flips it in from his own side, but it's right on Eriksson, so no icing. 7.5 minutes to go in the third. And no icing on this one either. Dubnyk out, swings the puck around for Pitlick. His pass to center, knocked down by DeFazio. Tanev after the puck, fanned on it. Tries again to get it out and does on the third attempt. Brandon DeFazio. That play broken up. Nick Schultz gains the red and dumps one into the Vancouver zone. Tanev can't get it out. Nurse with a shot and gloved with the right hand by Joachim Eriksson.
Brendan Gaunce has 2 goals in the 2 exhibition games, and very similar. Going to the net in the first game, stick on the ice, rebound right there. And in tonight's game, same thing. He starts to play, good forecheck, goes to the net, rebound right there. And this time on the backhand, he's ready to flick it towards the net. It's off the goaltender and in.
Brad Richardson with a face-off win in his own zone. Canucks get the puck around. Hansen carries it over the Oiler blue line. Stood up by Ferentz. Justin Schultz trying to clear. Gets the puck over the leaping Richardson. And the Oilers slide it over the Vancouver blue line. Brown chops at the puck and puts it wide of the goal. Mike Brown again. Puck gets by him. Picked up by Garrison. Pass up the middle. Stewart one-hands the puck up the right side. Here's Hansen. Fans on his shot. Gets the puck back. Now lets it go. And Dubnyk the save. Stewart and Richardson both in front, but there was no rebound to be had.
Well, Jannik Hansen tried the wrist shot first with his teammates going to the net and fanned on it. Had a much better chance on the second one. Pulls it, gets the second one, gets all of it, but Devan Dubnyk right there to make the save. Brad Richardson has, I thought, been very good in this game, and he had won 6 out of 7 faceoffs coming into this third period. An area the Canucks have to improve on.
There's thought that once the season starts, that it may be Richardson, Hansen, and Higgins. Potentially. They showed some chemistry for sure in a scrimmage here at Rogers Arena. Chris Higgins yet to see preseason action. Canucks get the puck out. Shot back in by Hunt, and he'll hustle to the Edmonton bench. Joachim Eriksson plays the puck to the side. Canucks get it ahead, and it's back to Bo Horvat. Oilers break that up, and here's Darnell Nurse leading the way in. Flips one towards the goal. Eriksson grabs that puck. He'll take the whistle, and we'll take our final break from Rogers Arena. All the scoring early, and the Oilers still leading by a comfortable margin.
Here's a look at Brad Richardson, and he is now 7 out of 8 in the face-off circle, and it's so important that you can get things going with the forecheck, good physical presence. That's the way he's always played. He gets the puck in deep, makes the smart plays, and it gets there with a purpose, and creates a scoring chance and a tripping penalty. Jason Garrison, as he had that chance, and win the face-off, and that creates a chance going the other way.
It was a lock that you were going to be a Brad Richardson fan anyway, because he's from the Bay of Quinte area.
Yes.
Good Belleville boy near John Garrett's hometown of Trenton, Ontario, where John is enshrined in the Trenton Sports Hall of Fame.
And on that post in the entrance to the arena,
Well,
George Ferguson, myself, Bob Daly, we're all on posts in the Trenton Memorial Arena.
I'm sure Brad would have played at the Wally Dever Arena in Belleville.
We used to have a great rivalry with the Belleville teams. The Junior B.
Mike Santorelli gets the puck to the line. Andrew Ferentz trying to get a shot through. Joensuu complaining, get his stick knocked out of his hands. He gathers it as the Canucks pick up the puck and send it out. Shot back in by Andrew Ferentz. Tanev sidesteps the check from Joensuu. The puck is thrown toward the Gunks. DeFazio in with a pass attempt. That's broken up. And the Oilers get the puck forward. Canucks retake possession. Over to pick it up is Peter Anderson. Gaunt slides the puck over the Oiler line. Ben Eager to Mike Brown, who backhands the puck into the corner. Brown moves in on Garrison. Eager after the puck comes free to Bieksa with 4 minutes to go in the game. Jason Garrison up for Brendan Gaunce. Puck goes off his skate. Right to Brad Hunt. Product of Maple Ridge. Ahead to Will Acton, who sends the puck in. Eriksson out of his net. Gets it to the line, but not out. Puck bouncing through. Eager couldn't find it, nor could Everly, who was looking for his 4th point of the hockey game. 3.5 minutes left, and Bieksa has the puck behind the goal. Bieksa just flips one to the end of the blue line. Glove down by Stewart. He's got a step. He's in and broke his stick as Hunt moved to check him while Stewart was trying to get the shot off. Icing call coming up here, and the faceoff will come back into the Vancouver zone. Just over 3 minutes to go in the third. And we invite you to stand by after the game. Connected follows Canucks and the Oilers, and here's what you can look forward to.
Well, thanks so much. Just a reminder that this guy, Gary Volk, and I will have a full post-game show right after the Canucks and Oilers. Back to Rogers Arena we go.
Edmonton Oilers looking to set up a chance in the Vancouver zone. Pass for Hemsky, deflects to the blue line. Taylor Hall, Darnell Nurse behind the net. Puck center, Hemsky reached for it, couldn't handle it. Here's Tanev. Jensen from center backhands the puck into Oiler territory. Taylor Hall with a pass to Ryan Smith, and he flips the puck down to the Vancouver blue line. And another icing call will bring the puck back into the Vancouver zone with just over 2 minutes to go in the third.
Canucks played much better after about the first, what would you say, 7 minutes of the first period, when they were outshot 9-0 and they couldn't get the save when they needed it.
Oilers control off the draw. Hunt for the slap shot. That didn't get through. Jason Garrison has had to play big minutes and has had a fairly strong game on the blue line. Was able to get in front of that one. Canucks have been playing pretty much the last 2/3 of this hockey game with just 4 defensemen. And Garrison and Bieksa along with Tanev. I guess you could throw Tanev in as a veteran presence, but they've had to log pretty big minutes here in the last 40 minutes of the hockey game.
John Nagrin was .231 when he was hurt.
Patrick Mullen made it to the second period, but not much further. Here's Acton with a wrist shot attempt, and that was off a stick through to Eriksson, who grabs the puck with his trapper, and he'll hang on with 1:27 to go in the game.
Ben Eager looks a little fleeter of foot. I know he's lost some weight, and he came in with a little different attitude. Remember last year he got tagged by Zach Kassian in the second game of the year and had some concussion problems. Ben Eager is one of those guys that you would like to try and control his enthusiasm in his penalty minutes, and he could be a force if he could be a third line physical presence without taking the penalty.
Couldn't come up with that puck, and Brendan Gaunce gets it ahead to Jannik Hansen. Slams a long one in on Dubnyk, who drops the puck down for Justin Schultz. He plays the puck off the boards and out to center. Tanev feeds Anderson, and he starts up ice for Vancouver. Pass for Richardson. Plays the puck to the far corner. Hansen after it there. Chopped ahead by Ference, past Tanev, and down into the Vancouver zone. Garrison backing up, hit the referee with that pass intended for Bieksa, who now picks up the puck. Final minute of the hockey game. And the Canucks will fall to 0-2. Edmonton picking up its second win. This is the 4th game of the preseason for the Oilers. They'll be 2-1-1. And these teams meet again Saturday in Edmonton. Hitler tries to get the puck down the boards, blocked by Bieksa, who now takes a shot from Johansson. Kassian in over the Edmonton line with a pass for Daniel Sedin. Henrik Sedin in front for Daniel. Picked off by Johansson. He clears the puck out. Perron thought about giving chase, but
That's it, guys. Five.
that'll do it for the hockey game as Bieksa picks up the puck, and the Oilers will come off to celebrate with Devan Dubnyk, who got a lot of early run support. Joachim Eriksson played the third period for the Canucks. But the Oilers got 4 early ones on Roberto Luongo and carried that to a 4-1 win.
Well, and in the second period, when it looked like the Canucks had a chance and were pressing, Devan Dubnyk was very good in net for the Edmonton Oilers. Had no chance on the only goal that beat him was the third rebound put in by Brendan Gaunce.
So Dubnyk celebrates the victory. Gaunce has a couple of goals in as many games, but the Canucks 0-2 and getting set to face the Oilers again on the weekend. 4-1 the final here at Rogers Arena as we send it down to Murph.
The Canucks stress a vastly different lineup than in preseason game number 1, but with the same result, a loss. Oilers jumping on Roberto Luongo early in the first, scoring 4, getting out to a 4-0 lead. Canucks were better after that, but never recovered. These two teams will do it again Saturday. For now, stick around. Connected is next with post-game reaction from Rogers Arena.